So we've got Q&A now. I've got some questions that I'll start answering in the Q&A box, but please put your hand up so we can hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. I've been listening to my own voice rattling in my head now for 28 minutes. It'd be lovely to hear someone else's. We're pleased to confirm the examination moderation is open for all relevant subjects. That's interesting. This is from Ian Crossman. Is he a colleague of ours? Anyone? Lee?
I'm not sure.
In a Pearson newsletter sent this afternoon. Genius. Thank you, Ian, for telling us about our newsletters. I wonder what that really means. Well, yeah, go have a look, see if it's there. I thought that there was going to be, I thought you couldn't actually upload anything until the date for the specific exams. Is that not right, Lee? We clearly don't know. Never mind. Okay, so we have another question here. We have a very small IT team, and I'm the only CS teacher. Am I allowed to be in or go into the room to help with IT technical issues outside of the pupil's control, such as their code crashing the IDE? Ideally, and your exams officer, I don't know, Dave, if you're in this meeting with, like on your own, or whether your exams officer is there. Your exams officer, in general, have a rule that the classroom teacher is not permitted in a room while a GCSE assessment is going on. That would be standard. If, as you state, you're a small team and your expertise may be needed, we do have, we're working on some wording to give you guidance about what good practice would be. I mean, you have to remember that we're always looking to support the students to access the assessment. We want them to be successful and we want it to go smoothly, so we will be pragmatic. We have a duty to ensure that the assessment is secure. So those two things normally mean that you keep teachers out of the room. But in certain circumstances, you know, there can be some kind of flexibility. I would suggest you email us directly and we'll get some kind of answers to you. We will need to keep work securely for a certain period of time after the exam. Absolutely. This is addressed in the ICE. We strongly recommend that, as well as making a backup copy of the zip files that you send to us, you also archive the user areas if that's technically feasible. Sometimes there can develop a discrepancy between what you send us and what the student thinks they did, and the way of forensically figuring out if that's true is to have archived copies of the user areas in the state, in exactly the state they were when the students got up and left. And then how long would you keep that for? So once appeals process is over, which is normally so by the end of September, you know, then they can be deleted or removed from your system. So they're of great use if we need to do forensics and dig into what might have gone wrong. And once appeals process is over and awarding is completed and results are given, they're of no use. Should the zip file for each candidate include both the student and completed coding folders? It turns out there's some regulations in assessment which say that we need to ask for the completed coding folder only. So I strongly suggest you help the students get the work that they do stuck into the correct folder. That can be done by practicing mocks and specimens that we've provided. You can remind them at the beginning of the 2-hour assessment. I would recommend that the invigilator announces at the end of the assessment, make sure all your work is in the completed coding folder. Our assessment technically is not assessing the student's ability to save files with the correct names and in the correct places, but we cannot just say to the centres, send us everything. So examiners will look in the completed coding folders. If a candidate puts their work in the wrong folder, will it still be marked as long as it is in the zip? Yes. I'm not going to say any more than that. Who deals with zipping the files and dragging them onto Edexcel Online? Mr. Anonymous. Zipping the files and dragging them onto Edexcel Online can be decided in the centre. It's better that it isn't the classroom teacher, in case that they would be tempted to look inside the zips. It's a largely administrative task. The zipping might be done by an IT support person, and then the dragging into, it's not Edexcel Online, it's Learning Work Transfer, could be done by an exams officer or IT support. You can decide that yourself. We don't have a strong feeling on it. I mean, the thing is that the materials need to get back to us securely without being interfered with, so you know your standard processes would kick in there. No hands up yet. Come on, let's have somebody have a go at me. We've got one hand up. I can't see it. Can you, Lee?
Yes, it's Joanne Matthews. I'm just opening.
So do you want to give Joanne the mic? Hi Joanne, you'd like to answer your question?
I would. Mine is the first question on the list that you went through, which was, I am the IT support, the subject teacher, the head of department for the whole school from primary all the way up. And I am probably the person who would have to zip the files and transfer them, because sadly my exams officer probably wouldn't be able to do that. But it's just me. So
yeah,
I mean,
so then you do it. You make sure you talk and work with your exams officer. Your exams officer is the arbiter of the processes and security in your centre. Whatever you agree together, if she or he are happy that the process is secure, then let us know as well. If the exams officer wants backup, or at the end of the day, it's actually your centre's decision. Is you have centre responsibility. So we're going to be pragmatic and supportive in this. We don't want any student to be disadvantaged nor advantaged. So and there, as always, also with question papers that are physically mailed and posted around the country, the centre has a certain level of responsibility and trust to secure things. So if you're the only one, then it will be you, and you talk to your exams officer and just make sure that all of you are happy with it.
Yeah, and obviously I would have to be in the actual exam with a separate invigilator. So I understand that, because I think it works on a similar principle to when we used to do IT exams online, and I used to have to be there as well. So I'm there and we have an invigilator, and I only take any interest if something happens.
Again, your exams officer will have a strong feeling about that.
Okay.
Normally, for GCSEs, you wouldn't be allowed in the room, even if your expertise was required. So it might need some work. That contact us. Get your exams officer and yourself to contact us. How many delegates do you have? Is it a large cohort?
No, I've only got 5.
5. So we can support you. My contact details are in here somewhere. Teaching computer science, or if you want to be more elegant, teaching ICT at pearson.com.
Okay.
We'll support you.
Okay, that's cool.
We are using Phony, however, is PyCharm allowed? Is a question on the Q&A box. Absolutely. We are happy for you to use any IDE that supports the students and your teaching. In fact, implicit in the design of the assessment was that we wanted it to be your decision so that you could choose to use the IDE that suits you and that enables you to teach the students and enables them to access the learning, which, by the way, is not a Python GCSE, it's a GCSE in computer science. Hence, we have the PLS to scope very much the amount of the specific language that you need to use. Our computer science who attended this morning's session forgot to ask whether it's okay that we have Python M3U installed. I haven't a clue, anonymous attendee. I don't know what Python M3U means or is, whether it's an IDE. Have the teacher email me. We'll get an answer to you. There's some hands up. Brilliant. Akorama, you've got the mic. Ask your question. I tried to unmute you.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe we both did it and toggled it. Akorama, you've got the mic.
Sorry, I haven't got a question. Is that me?
Yeah, Akorama, is that you?
It's Ekoroma.
Ekoroma, sorry. Yeah, ask your question.
Well, I haven't got specific, but I put one question before earlier on. If a student was to save, because in a practice session, they have saved the work in the wrong order, how do you go about sorting that with the actual questions, that code files?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
So when they do question one.
Yeah, they're supposed to save here something finished. They didn't save here something finished. They just saved it as something else, like the same file itself.
Oh, so you know what? If they save it as question01.py and they put it into the completed folder, then it will get marked. If it's in the completed folder and it has student work in it, it'll get marked. Even if they call it question01_mydog.py. If it's in the completed folder, our examiners will look to see if there's any marks I can give the student. Now, I'm not encouraging your kids to call their files my dog. You know, strongly advise that you train them and teach them and badger and convince to follow exactly what it says in the question paper. But whatever's in the completed coding folder, the examiners will look at. And, you know, as long as it's clear that it's question one, then they'll be able to give marks for that. Does that answer the question?
Yes, in a bit as well. You've mentioned that it should be 2 folders, but in our practice, we'll be using just 1 folder in which they will save as the finished item. So is that still recommended that we can use that as well? Just 1 folder to save completed task in the same folder as where the question was.
Yeah. So when they do save as, just make them put it into the completed coding folder.
Okay.
Okay. Darren. I think I've given you the mic. There you go.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Sorry, I was doing something else.
You were sleeping. You were nodding off. It's nearly 5.
That's exactly what I was doing. Sleeping. Yes. Hi. You referred in your presentation to the ICE. The image that you provided was not the ICE that I thought you were referring to. I thought you were referring to the JCQ ICE.
No.
But
No.
that is what you were referring to?
No, we're referring to our ICE. So there's a JCQ ICE, which is generic and general. And then for every specific assessment that has conditions either above or beyond the generic ICE, an awarding organization creates a qualification specific ICE. So our ICE is, there's a link to it in the presentation, which you'll get. I thought you were going to point out that the screenshot was 1.2, whereas our live one is 1.3. I was going to give you a prize for that, but no, it's our qualification specific ICE.
And where will I be, apart from in this presentation, where else will I be able to locate that?
in the qualifications website. If you have any trouble finding it, just email me, Tim. Say, Tim, I can't find. Our website is a behemoth, so I don't mind providing you with links to important documents like that. There'll probably be links in the follow-up emails to this meeting as well. But don't wait. Just teachingict@pearson.com. Tim, where's that ICE link? Brilliant. And I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Alicia, you've got the mic, I think. Yes, this is working. Hi.
Hi. So I was wondering when the actual time begins, because I'm assuming it starts after they've been logged into the secure area. But I was just kind of wanting to clarify if that's the case.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So, yeah, I would talk to your exams officer. I think if students come in and log on and then lean back and sit in silence waiting for the teacher to start, that's okay. And it does, that does eliminate the stress and panic of a kid that can't type the password correctly. It saves them a little bit of time and stress. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. I don't think our assessment people would have any problem with that being your practice. You could talk to your exams officers to see if they agree.
Right, thank you. And could I just ask about
You're not allowed to. No, go on.
About the ending time.
Yeah.
Just with that, for instance, if they say that's the end of the 2 hours, they can't then rename any files. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say when the exam is finished, they don't touch the keyboard. And I would have your invigilators with the 5 minutes to go or 10 minutes, whatever is standard in your center, just remind the students to make sure that the work is in the completed. I mean, it can be on a wall or a whiteboard as well, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I mean, it makes sense. We don't want to stress them, but it wouldn't be appropriate to have them messing about with file names and folder, after the 2 hours. So that would not be appropriate.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Alicia. Darren.
Yeah, it's me again. You allowed 2 questions a moment ago, so I thought you might allow me a second.
No.
I can't quite remember what it is now. Yes, I do. It was related to the question you were answering a minute ago about when to actually start the exam. I'm very new to the job as an exam officer. I've literally only started like 2 weeks ago. And you just said that it would be fine to start, or in your opinion, it would be fine to start once all of the students have logged in. The only problem with that is we're up for an inspection by the assessment team on that day. And if it's not okay with them, I mean, how would I know? I mean, if it's okay when to start the exam and when it's not okay, not. I mean, I don't want to.
Do you have what cohort size do you have?
A very small one.
So log them in yourselves, and then they cannot touch the computers. So have it sitting there logged in.
Okay. All right. Fine. All right. Brilliant. Thanks.
There's a question here. Are students allowed to bring in their own mouse and or keyboard? Interesting question, Anthony. The default answer is no. They shouldn't be taking any equipment in or out. However, I suspect this might be related to some kind of special medical and or accessibility requirements, in which case you should, I don't know if you're an exams officer or a teacher, but if you're not an exams officer, you should talk to your exams officer and have them contact the special access, go through the special access arrangements process via edXL Online. If there's a medical reason why they need this, then of course we would support it. It wouldn't be normally allowed because mice and keyboards can have memory in them nowadays, which might provide advantages. That's my answer, a long answer to a short question. Does that make sense? You could put your hand up if you have any more or you want to follow on. Susanna, how much support were you able to give beforehand and on the day? We are supporting 2 students who are sitting as external candidates as not on school roll in a small PRU and who don't have an IT department. I am having to wear IT technician hat, but I'm not an official IT technician. The guides seem very comprehensive and I'll do a lot of testing and dry runs beforehand, but a bit anxious if things go drastically wrong. So we'll do what we can. I mean, I cannot pretend that we'll be able to hold your hand right through the whole process, but email me, ask as many questions as you can, and we'll do what we can to help. Leslie, bringing one of the biggest schools in my area, OBing our IT services team often provide IT support for other schools, particularly with setup and configuration, make all this exam process happen successfully. Any issues or declarations to be done surrounding this? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think not. This is Leslie. I'm not using surnames because when the recording goes out, we want to try and retain anonymity. So I don't think we have any issues about this. I think every exam center has a responsibility for their own security processes, their own setups. So the fact that they're using an in-house IT services team or an out-of-house services team, I don't think is for us an issue. I mean, in-house is kind of better because they're on hand and more maybe available. If they're out of house, then it's a good idea to make sure that whatever contract is there with them, they're made available on the day just for backup. I don't know if I've answered your question there, but oh, here we've got Alan. Alan, you have the mic. Please ask your question.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for this. My question, I have 2 parts to it, really. I hope I'm understanding this correctly. It was mentioned in the presentation that the classroom teacher shouldn't be in the class whilst the exam is going on. Is that correct?
Ideally.
Okay, fantastic. I'll get my colleague to be in there. The second question is, we have a laptop scheme here, and so each student has their own laptop. We did a practice mock exam earlier in the year, and the IT department had created an alternate login for each student, which gave them only access to the folders where they could open files, and then the second folder where they could save the completed files. Perfect. And to the Python IDE. So effectively, when they logged in, it just launched idle and nothing else was accessible other than the folder with the code files in. Now, earlier you mentioned they can't have a mouse or a keyboard of their own, but we don't have any computer suites. It's literally one-to-one laptop.
Yeah, so, no, but what you're talking about there is it's running in some kind of kiosk mode and only idling. So that's appropriate, isn't it?
Fine.
At the end of the day, we're not trying to dictate what pens and pencils people are using. You're going to have different infrastructures and different challenges. What you've just described to me sounds like it meets our security requirements without any problem. If you wanted to discuss that with us further and explain any further, you can always come to me. Are you the classroom teacher or the IT?
No, I'm the classroom teacher. Yeah.
So the only thing about the kiosk mode that might be a worry is if they're able to abort out of it and grab files that might be on their C drive in their laptop. That might be something to consider.
Yeah.
Another thing is, are there any other apps that during your teaching they have used for helping them with their coding? They might need access to them as well as the IDE.
Yeah, no, we did use for literally the whole of year 10, we were using REPL, but that's online, and there isn't IT. Yeah, there isn't an offline version. So
no,
this year I trained them to use idle as
Well
opposed
done,
to,
you.
yeah. So as opposed, they do have Thonny as well, but it's less popular
Okay.
because the IT support, the network manager, he basically was like, I'll put idle on and only idle. So
now, now it's a shame if you're here in this meeting on your own. If your colleague was with you, I'd be telling them that they need to remember who the boss is here.
sure, yeah,
The
no, I
teachers
understand.
should drive it. It's something to look for the future. You
We-
know, if you
yeah, we
want
have
to
had
use
those
Thonny, you should tell them we put it on there.
I can't remember exactly. It was the start of the year, so I can't remember exactly why. But there was a technical reason. It wasn't working the same way as idle. It was easier for them
More
to
work for them. Yeah, easier. There you
yeah,
go.
maybe.
Let's not be
Maybe.
mean to our IT support colleagues. Let's not be mean.
No, but there's likely to be there'll obviously be an invigilator, and there's likely to be a technician in here at the same time. But I guess if the head of department's nearby, in order to, because she doesn't teach them, so she's nearby to.
I think as a backup or as required, you know, if she needs to nip in and out again, it's very, very rare that an issue related to the programming side of things comes up. The vast majority of times it's related to like the system crashing or a
Sure.
keyboard suddenly getting stuck or something.
Yeah,
but Alan, email me directly, and
okay.
you know, we can do that in more detail. But you know, in principle, what it sounds like a sensible approach, given your circumstances.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. You've got the mic. I think you have, Kevin. It doesn't look like you have a mic. Your hand is up, Kevin, but I don't think you have a mic. At least I can't.
I've just clicked. Yeah, so it says Kevin's using an older version of Zoom, and it won't allow him onto the mic.
There's a question in the Q&A. Is it fine for zip files to be saved to USB stick to be transferred to the exams officer to upload via LWT? Ian, if that is the process in your center and your exams officer is happy with that, then that's what you should do. You know, it's not ideal, and it seems rather laborious to be having to go from computer to computer with a USB stick. But you know, if your infrastructure just doesn't have the networks, actually, we've had a Mac school that have a similar issue, and they've had to revert, believe it or not, to USBs. You know, the question, the thing is it fine so long as it's all secure? It's fine. Whatever way you need to do it, that's what you should do. Next question, Diane. We've been having problems with LWT. What if that continues to be an issue? Diane, I presume you're an exams officer and you're talking about either art, performing art, or PE, sport. Most of the learner work transfer issues have been related to file sizes. The system for very large file sizes that are like video or something is that sometimes the network limitations start to cause problems. There was a issue with scanning that LWT has fixed over the weekend. I'm thinking that for our files, which are going to be minuscule, tiny in terms of file size, I'm hoping that we're going to dodge all the troubles. Having said that, if on the Friday SLT gets in the way, we will have people on hand to either help get it working or give you alternative ways of getting the materials to us. So that would be not a question, but AQA A-level computer science allowed a teacher in the room as technical support with a separate invigilator. Interesting. Thank you, Andy. Are you happy with students to do the initial setup of the IDE profile that has to be done before the exam starts? Pie chart. Many students is a difficult task for the technicians to do. I'll tell you what, Andy, that is a tricky one to answer. I'm not sure that they can do that up front. And I don't know how much is really required in terms of initial setup of, so the IDE profile, and then they can just read in the files. No, I don't know how, if you don't have too large a cohort, maybe that has to be done manually by yourself or something. I'm not sure of the answer to that. Can you, if you can email me separately, please, and we can discuss that. Can you confirm the use of idle? Are students allowed access to the Python help documents come as default? Absolutely, yes. Kevin. Dan, nice to see you on the list. How are assessors marking the coding files? Will they solely read the code, or will the assessors run the programs to see if the code completes and the task? So a mixture of both. They reserve the right to pull the coding files into an IDE that they will have and use them. They will always retain a original version of the student's work separately. So they will make a copy of the student's work, mark it first of all by looking at it, run it in the IDE, and so a mixture of both, I guess, is the answer, Dan. Old colleagues. I say old, I'm old, Dan less so. We've got to 16:59. I don't see any hands up. And I think we've got to the end of the Q&A box. So maybe we should bid you a fond afternoon for the rest of your day.